Hi, Adam Collingwood here. Now, in this training video, you'll learn a very powerful trading strategy that I've used for many years. With this strategy, you'll learn the most strategic place to sell and why, and how to skillfully use the different time frames and trend lines, which gives you a completely different perspective. You'll also see where to place your stop loss and the target. And in this particular instance, you'll see a 5-to-1 risk to reward trade. You'll learn how long to keep your trades open to maximize your gains and then take profit at exactly the right time. And this is a live trade made on the 19th of May, so please watch to the end to see how I managed the trade from start to finish. Thank you. Hi, Adam Collingwood again here, and in this training, what I'm going to do is just show you a perfect entry. So I'm going to show you the setup and the reason why I took the trade, the reason why I sold the DAX. So at the moment you're looking at the daily chart, and if you can see on the, I'm just going to expand this a bit for you. So you can see there's been this long green candle. This was from yesterday. Okay, so there is this massive buying power on the DAX, and that was a consequence of the news that they may have found a vaccine for coronavirus. Okay, and that was the response. So yesterday was a big green day for the DAX, and it's a perfect opportunity to buy and milk that move all the way up. But of course, any move will eventually be met with some resistance. So you see my trend line here. I could see that it was going to find resistance at that point, but you've got this candle where it's just shot through and then started to pull back, and that's where we were looking for the opportunity. Okay, so there's this wick here, but earlier that was green. Okay, this morning, the time now is just coming up to 10 o'clock, so early in the morning the price went as high as 11,200, which presented a great opportunity to sell. So that's from the macro level, looking at the daily time frame. And so I'm just going to circle that for you just to make that clear. So it's just here. Okay, so that point there. Okay, we're looking to sell. But what we need to do is we need to zoom into the micro time frames and look for an opportunity to sell from there. So I'm going to zoom all the way into the 1 minute time frame. Okay, I love the 1 minute time frame because it gives us a much tighter entry. So this is the highest point that the DAX got to, which is 11,231, where I put my alarm in, and that's where my stop was going to be, as I entered as the price started to cross through and come down here. Okay, so we had this drop, then it just pulled up again, touched my magic black line here, okay, and then it started to drop. So the entry was as it crossed through here, okay, just there, and then the stop was just up here. Okay, so the reward for the risk taken was perfect. Okay, absolutely perfect, because the price had gone up so much, which I'll just show you on the relative strength index on the 1 hour, where we reached that overbought level, which is another indicator. You can see here, so this is yesterday's move all the way up, and it crossed through that 70 marker there, got as high as 90, okay, 92 there, and then that's just clearly showing, let's just expand that for you, that's clearly showing an overbought level. So how much further is it going to go up before we start to see some retrace? Okay, so I'm looking for the pullback from that move. This is what the 1 hour now looks like. Now, one thing I am aware of in this particular trade is I like the 1 hour time frame as well. You can see it crosses my black line there, perfect opportunity to buy, which I will go into later in further training, where we can buy as, that's what I call the buy zone, and that's the sell zone. One of the things that traders find is difficulty with is how long they hold on to a trade for. Okay, this is a prime example of being able to keep the trade open as it continues its momentum above the black line here. We also have the moving averages, which is nice because we want the candles to remain snug to the moving average. And in this case, this light blue line is my 6-day moving average, or should I say 6-unit moving average, 6 lots. It's the last 6 candles, the average price of the last 6 candles. And the same here with the green line, which is my 20-unit exponential moving average, so the average of the last 21 hour candles, the blue being the last 50 1-hour candles. Okay, so these are all fanning out nicely as well. You can see there that the 6 has crossed the 20, and so that's all showing a very perfect trend, so that you want to stay in that trend until we see the bend in the end. So you probably heard that expression, that you just basically just continue to run with the trend until that bend in the end, and that's where you want to start to close the trade down. Okay, so if we go back to the 1 minute time frame, I'm now looking for an opportunity to bank the money, and the obvious place here is that we've got a pivot point here, which is a possible place where the price could test at some point, which would be around 10,936. But I've got now, because I sold up here, I've got plenty of time to just leave this trade open. I know traders are conscious of the fact that once you have made, say, over 100 pips, should you be taking it at that point? Well, if you did take it too quickly, what would happen if the price dropped to 10,936? When I sold at, let me just show you where I sold at. There's the zoo conditions that have come out as well, which is important, so I get notified if anything happens that potentially could affect the trade. So the zoo current conditions are minus 93.5 in terms of the market sentiment, okay, which is high. It's higher than what it was estimated to be, which was 88. Okay, previous month was 91.5. This time round, it's minus 93.5. Okay, so this is the trade. The open level was 11,181. Okay, and the price now 11,048, 11,046. So that's going to continue to keep changing around. So let's just see, 131 point move there. Another area where the DAX could find some resistance is it could bounce up here and touch this trend line here, 11,065, before continuing to move south. Okay, so I'm leaving the trade open. So this is all about managing the trade to maximize the number of pips that we can get from this movement. Now, I could obviously sell the trade, you know, buy the DAX to close the trade and then re-enter and sell at that point. But what I'm wanting to do is keep the trade open. I don't want to be staring at my screen waiting for something to happen. So I actually do put alarms in once something significant happens. So here's an alarm that I'm just putting in here, which is 11,940. So as soon as the price just touches that point, I want to just see what's happening, and potentially I could take half the profit at that point. So if I took the profit at 10,940, let's just go back to the ticket. I sold there 11,181. So if I let the price drop to 11, I'll just show you again, 11,940, then what we've got is a nice 240 point profit. Okay, and that'd be a nice trade for the day. And the good thing is here, I'm only trading at just £1 per point. And that's just lovely, just being able to, if I want to, I can just trade small amounts per point and I can still pick up a decent amount of money. And I've not really had to do very much other than just know exactly where to sell and the reasons why I should be selling. So let's just measure now the risk reward on this. So you can see from here, I sold at 11,181. Okay, so let's go back to the chart and we'll do some numbers here. So we've got 11,181 and my stop here. So I entered there and my stop was at 11,231. So $11,181. Okay, so what we've got there is a 50 pip stop. Okay, so from there, let's just draw that. From there, that's the stop, and then the entry point was there. Okay, so a 50 pip stop to allow the price enough wiggle room. I was comfortable. Sometimes the trades we do will only be 11 pips as a stop. Sometimes 11 pips to even make 100. So we're looking sometimes even at 8 to 1, 9 to 1, 10 to 1 trades. But in this particular case, because of the significant movements, the range is so much greater at the moment because of the market volatility, we just need a bigger stop, okay? And in this case, what I've done is I've used the 1 minute time frame to give me that entry, okay? And just give it enough wriggle room between here and here, okay? So if it did come back up, then I'd be stopped out and lose 50 pips for this. But we can see at the moment from that 11,181, the price has now dropped to my target, okay, on here was the pivot point there, so 10,936. That's been the first target, okay. So if we look at that and measure the reward for that, my target there, just at the bottom here is 10,940. Okay, so there's the 241 pips target. So that trade there is just under 5 to 1. Okay, so the risk 50 pips. I'm looking for nearly 250 point profit there, which would give me a 5 to 1 reward. Okay, so if you've got any questions, then let me know. Hope that makes sense. It's so important to, before you enter any trade, just to know what your reward is. So that's the 5 to 1 RR risk reward. Okay, sometimes we'll be looking, as I said, at just taking 12 pips where I use other time frames, which gives us an even tighter entry, when we are selling off levels of resistance or buying off levels of support on breakouts, reversals, and even when a price is oscillating. So there's different strategies that can be used, okay? But importantly here, what I want to emphasize is the power of this is being able to keep a trade open. Now, some people think that I would be I would be closing a trade if it crossed, say, here, because it's crossed over my black line. But that's not the case, because I'm not using, I've entered on a 1 minute time frame, but I'm not using a 1 minute time frame to actually close the trade. Okay, I'm using other time frames for that. So I'm just going to show you that to you now. So just, if you just take that in, 50 pips stop for a potential reward of 241, and we've got a 5-to-1 reward for risk ratio there. So at the moment, you can see that now by leaving the trade open, I am now 175 pips to the good. That's going to keep fluctuating, but just keeping it open will allow me time, okay? Because I entered just perfectly at the right time. This is a perfect setup to take advantage of. And that's what makes trading so easy sometimes. Not always easy, of course, because, you know, there can be frustrating days, but sometimes it is that damn easy. It really is, because it's quite obvious, as I showed before, the daily time frame showed that it was going to meet with resistance. The 1 hour relative strength index clearly showed that overbought level. I like the 1 hour relative strength index. I'm not going to get into MACD, but there was a nice MACD on there as well, which just backed things up. But I like to just purely enter from my chart here. So you can see how simple my chart is. I have key support and resistance lines, trend lines on here, and they all mean something. They're all very important. That's whether I will only have lines on my chart that mean something. Okay, I don't like overcomplication. Okay, so let's just have a look at this on a 5 minute time frame. So I'm going to clear the drawings there, so make the screen a lot more clearer. So the moment this, see the screen on here, we could find a bit of support here for the DAX, but I'm not worried too much, because on the 5 minute time frame, it's still in the sell zone. Okay, the green line here, so the last 20 lots of 5 minutes, the last 50 lots of 5 minutes, the average. Okay, so we're always looking at the mean. And they've all crossed down, so continuing that momentum down, it's all pointing down. Okay, and so we could eventually get to a point where we will see some support again for the DAX, but after that massive movement yesterday, we are obviously going to get a retrace. And of course, this morning with the zoo conditions, it's important to be aware of news that comes out, because that sentiment will affect the price action. And so that's not going to help the fact that the market sentiment was even more than what was estimated. Okay, it's a little bit like the employment figures in America, like last week when the employment claims came out. It looked absolutely devastating in the US, which of course sent the DAX down to, DAXs went down to 10,172. I think it was on Thursday, and today it's Tuesday, and we're back up to 11,018 as I'm talking now. So can you see on this 5 minute, again, I like to see, so it's in my 5 minute sell zone, so it's below my magic black line here, but you see how it just comes up and it just touches the 20 unit exponential moving average, so the last 20 candles on the 5 minutes. Okay, the average of the last 20 prices, and that's so important. So the 20 has now cost the 200, which is the red there as well. So that's also, it's, you know, it's significant in such that if they got them all starting to point down, then that gives us an idea that there could be a further drop. But I'm always looking at other time frames, and one significant one here is this 1 hour one. Okay, so if you wanted to, an entry opportunity the other day was here on this 1 hour chart, to enter here, and now that was a great time to go in. Okay, and that was when the price was at 10,417. Okay, and it stayed the whole time in the 1 hour buy zone. See there, this one here, see how it just pulls back, comes back here to the 200. Okay, see here, so it's pulling back, pulls back again there, pulls back again there. Okay, see that? And it's only there that it actually crossed over on the last, this is a 6 unit exponential moving average. Okay, so once we're in the buy zone, we're looking for the price to pull back to these moving averages. It's so important because it creates the trend line. Okay, and now we can see here, once it hit that high earlier this morning, we can see now that the price has crossed through the last, this is the 20 unit moving average for the 1 hour. Okay, the average of the last 21 hour candles. Okay, but what I'm looking for is, of course, I'm just going to show this. This is really important. Okay, so this line here, okay, it needs to really cross there, because sometimes what it will do is it will touch the line and it will use it. As support. Okay, so it's so important that this crosses through to keep that momentum going. So there, just there. So we need that to cross through, come down to pivot. And what we could see is in this 1 hour time frame, we could see it cross through, touch pivot, and then come back up and cross right through the line. So we would see this, long tail, and then the body of the candle would be small, but there'd be a long tail there. So it's just testing and then coming back up. Okay, and that's why we have to just also use the other time frames. Okay, time frames are so important. We need to look, because we're looking through a window, a different window. So we have a different viewpoint, different perspective on each time frame. So this is looking very good at the moment. We do need it to cross this trend line on the 5 minute. Okay, if I show you the 10-minute time frame as well, it's crossed through there. So we're looking what's been happening for the last 10-minute candles, and the 30 minutes it's crossed through as well there. So you can see on the 30-minute it's just touching this moving average as well. So again, it just gives you another perspective that it's just holding on that average there, that 50 unit moving average, the average of the last 30-minute candles. Okay, so I'm looking, as I say, I'm looking at those particular time frames just to see whether there is going to be any resistance there. What I mean is support for the DAX. So in effect, resistance against the sell that's happening at the moment. All right. So the low that this has got to so far was 10,980, and of course it lifted to 11,056. So I could have ended up closing the trade and giving more money back. And this is what I'm getting at with regards to leaving a trade open as long as possible. And there was a review done, which was to understand why traders do get it right. They do get they do get it right, but what happens is they close trades too quickly. So they get the direction right, and then they quickly jump in and think, oh yeah, I made a few pips now, and then they close the trade, and it then goes on to could have made them another 50, 100, 200 pips. Okay, and so they're never actually moving forward. And then when they actually have a losing trade, they keep hold of that losing trade for far too long. So they always end up in a negative position as a trader rather than a positive position. Okay. And you know, you could have more losing trades and winning trades, but it's all about the size of that winning trade. Okay, so if you've got 3 losing trades where you're losing 18 pips, 20 pips, 25 pips, and then the 4th trade you've made 150 pips, well, that's going to engulf those losing trades, isn't it? So the most important thing is your net position, the difference between the trades that you've won on and then the ones that you've lost. And if you're still massively in profit, that's the only thing that matters. That's the only thing that matters. Okay, so I hope you found this training useful. At the moment, the movement is 176 pips positive. Okay, as I said, I will be looking to close this as it touches the pivot point here. I could even take 50% of the profit at that point and leave the trade open and then just put a stop in a strategic position. Okay, but the key is here is to the takeaway here is knowing why you should be selling here and not buying. Okay, why you should be selling here. So I've shown you the daily time frame. I've shown you where there's been an overbought level. Okay, and where that entry was, which was on a 1-minute time frame, and of course holding on to the trade, keeping it open and milking that move for as long as possible before it starts to pull back against you. And as I said before, this is where traders would have got out here. They'd have got out too early. Okay, they'd have got out too early thinking, oh no, the price is going against me now, I'm losing the pips that I've already made, rather than just managing the trade, keeping calm, being patient, and just waiting. Okay, so I can see this is definitely going to be heading towards that pivot point now. So going back to the numbers that I calculated, you know, we're looking at well over 200 pips of profit here. Okay. If you'd like to know how to do this, if you are somebody that is brand new to trading, wants to learn how to trade, or if you're somebody that is just struggling at trading, all you need to do is just get in touch, click on the link somewhere in this video, and this will take you through to a page and you can find out more about how to get involved in this. This is something that I've been doing for a long time now. I've been trading and investing in the stock market and advising in that for the last 20 years. So it is second nature to me now, but I'm continue to keep trading. I don't just coach and train. I am trading with real money all the time. And you don't have to have vast amounts of money, is what I'm showing you there. You know, just trading at £1 per point. You know, if you're making £200, you know, that's nice, especially at in this current climate with people in lockdown situations. You know, it's the time where you can look and review your financial situation, looking at what's happening, looking at job security, and looking at other avenues, looking at other ways of actually giving you extra income outside of what you're making in your job. Okay, so now the price is just slowed down. The price action's just slowed down a little bit, and I'm going to go off and do other things. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to the spread bet ticket. So at the moment I'm 187 pips to the good, and I want to take profit when it just touches, so around about 10,938 there. So I'm going to take the money there. So we're going to edit the ticket, and we're going to go to limit level. And so I'm going to be telling the broker that I want to close the trade at 10,938. So that will give me 240 odd pips there. Okay, so I'll submit that now. So open level 11,181, close at 10,938. Okay, and that's where it will bank the money for me if it hits my target there. Okay, so I'm going to submit that now. That's done, and we will see what happens next. So I'm going to leave the chart open now, and so you can just watch and see if it hits the target. And I'm going out to do other things now. Okay, so I've just come back in, and as you can see, the DAX has hit my target point, which was just here, as I talked about before. And when did it hit it? It hit it at 11:32, 11:33. Okay. Had I not put that limit order in place, you can see what's happened next. The price has just gone up to back to 11.027. So it has bounced quite a bit since taking the profit at pivot. Okay, so I'm guessing if I look now, I'll quickly check the IG spread bet ticket. That would have closed the trade for me, and I will just check now the amount of pips that have been made. Okay, so there we have the trading statement, and that just shows the open there, 11,181, sold £1 per point, and closed at 10,938 for 243 pips profit, £243 in total there. So that just gives you an idea of how simple trading really can be. So you saw exactly where I entered the trade, the reasons why I entered the trade, where my target point was, where my stop was, and also, you know, how I managed to trade to keep it open all that time. And then when I went out, how I managed it with a limit order so that I instructed the broker to cash the money in as soon as it got to 10,938. Okay, and that's exactly what happened. So I hope you enjoyed the training, and if you do want to find out more, then all you need to do is just click on the link somewhere here and find out more. Okay, you take care of yourselves, happy trading, and speak again soon.